What's going on? It's the RapNerd, and Nas and DJ Premier linked up to drop a new album called Light Years, and it released last Friday. I've been listening to it since, and I finally have my thoughts and breakdown of what I feel the album is, because this thing is special. So as you can imagine, I loved it. It's different than any project he's put out in this last 2020 run that he's done, and I think it's his best project personally, and this is no slight to Hit Boy at all, and I'm gonna get into why that is. So I've done reviews on most of those albums, I believe, and all of those I said that it felt like this was Hit Boy kind of modernizing the boom bap that Nas is used to rapping over, even throwing a little bit of trap in there, but still keeping it 100% Nas. And Hit Boy's job to me was to prop up Nas's vocals and lyricism, right? Like, that's what I got from those albums, and that's what made them great. They were good in marriage. But here, DJ Premier is like, nah, I'm not just propping you up. Like, I'm swinging back, and we're gonna be fighting. And for you to take the power of these songs, you're gonna have to spit your ass off, because these beats bang so hard. And it's partially the banging part, but it's also just the magic of when you have a rapper and a producer who started out together, come together to craft a full project. And I'm gonna put this right up there with Let God Sort 'Em Out and Mobb Deep's Infinite in a similar basket, because each of those albums are so great because it's the clashing of artists and producers who they started out with. So there's a bit of nostalgia that comes with it, but each of these producers has a very specific sound that seems like it's catered directly for the artist. Like Let God Sort 'Em Out, Pharrell went ham, and all those beats just sound like they're made specifically for clips, and that's all you can hear. The same with Infinite, and then the same thing here with Light Years. Because Nas's first album was Illmatic, and the first time we ever even hear Nas is over a Premier beat on New York State of Mind, and then you have Represent on there that DJ Premier also produced, and Memory Lane, which is another one. And all three of those records are some of Nas's biggest records to this day. So when you hear the sonics of those records and Nas's voice, it just creates something different that I don't think I've heard since that first album. And the fact that it's a full album with just them two, this shit goes crazy. And of course, Nas is a master at the grown man hip hop, but I feel like for me, it takes a step further. And a lot of these records just seem like they were speaking to me completely, and they hit me in the heart as I was listening to them. And then you pair that with some very, very creative writing. We all know Nas is a top tier lyricist. He's in my top 5, period, as an MC and artist. And it would take all day for me to break down a lot of the things that he's saying, but then the lyrical gymnastics are on full display. That's why I can never buy shit when people say like, oh, sometimes people don't want to be intricate with their rhyme schemes or complex to tell stories because you might miss something. When Nas has been doing it his whole career, and even at this stage, he's still being complex with his lyricism, still giving you multis, still giving you similes, still giving you metaphors and punchlines while telling a very intricate story. So I don't want to hear that shit. You know, the album opens with My Life Is Real, and it's almost like it's sneaking up on you. Like we're starting out on a very smooth path to kind of reel you in, where he is talking about where he is currently and how real his life is, and making that comparison of what street real is and what real life grown man real is. So I was listening like Bob in my head, like, yeah, this is dope. I'm loving this. It's bringing that vibe of Illmatic back. And then the next joint, Get Ready, has a very 80s hip hop sound to it that you could see somebody breakdancing to. And again, calling back to the era of which both of them came up in. And it's one of those things where you're like, all right, you're reeling me in. I'm loving this too. It's real classic hip hop shit at its genesis, which Nas is a part of. But then this is what I was talking about when I'm like, Premier said, nah, Nas, you're not getting all the shine today. In New York State of Mind Part 3, oh my God. This beat is so sinister, demonic, and incredible. And yet again, it fools you with that sample at the beginning. I believe, is that the Rolling Stones? Or who is that? Not I'm not super well versed in the rock legends, but the voice, it's in my head, but I can't think of it. But the fact that it's just that sample of him, talking about a New York state of mind, and when the beat drops, you just have those horns blaring so loudly with a kick drum that is so light that you really can't even feel the bass of it, but it doesn't matter because those horns and pianos are just so stretched and demented that you just can't help but screw your face up over it. And of course, Nas is rapping, but that beat takes the cake for that joint, man. Good Lord, what a beat. And I love in this song how he is, again, talking about those parallels of how New York once was to him and how they swap things around. Like one of the lines where he says they built a new hotel where Devil's Playground was, but yet and still with all these new things, the New York state of mind is still and always will be something for him and other fellow New Yorkers. I love the callback where he says, I'm suited in petite clothes. We're just inclined to defeat foes. And this is easily my favorite joint on the album. And then fast forward a little bit, just speaking about the creativity here, where we get the pause tapes and he not only recounts his first rhyme and the way he came up with his first raps, but also speaks in the shoes of a producer of how he came up with his first beat. And again, Nas is brilliant at being able to swap the perspective and talk through somebody. And the beat even matches the interview sample at the beginning of how the loop is pretty simplistic, but again, it just works. And when you skip forward the record, there's a song called Sons, which is another one that really speaks to me since I just had a son. My son's 2. Matter of fact, he just had his birthday, and hearing all of the things about how to raise your son and the morals, codes of like dads and how we teach our sons to be the young kings just spoke to me differently. And that's one of the records that kind of paused me in my seat where I wasn't bobbing my head and I was literally just hanging on to every word Nas was saying. And I love the next record called It's Time, where it's literally the sample just looped. I don't even think there's much of anything added to it. It's just sampling it, do, 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 do. And of course, Premier has his scratches all over it. And this just feels like one of those night riding records where Nas talks about how much time has flown from his era to now. And then the next record is when I was talking about the creativity in which Nas writes and why I think he's such a GOAT. It's called Nasty, Esco, and Nasir. And again, this is one of those beats where DJ Premier was like, I'm fighting you, kid. You got to beat this beat out for us to hear you, because this one is just as sinister with those mafia sounding violins and that bass guitar under it. And it's kind of slow tempo, just ill yuck face make when you just hear the instrumental. But what kicks it up a notch, hell, a few notches, 1,000 notches even, is the fact that it's Nas's 2 alter egos fighting at first. It's Nasty versus Esco having a debate about who's better, who's real, and who's not. And in the midst of the verse, there's 2 gunshots that go off, killing both of them. And then Nas steps in as himself to speak about the grown man he is and all of the things that he's accomplished now, being in his current era, signaling that the 2 people he once was no longer exist because he's grown past them, but they'll always be a part of him, showing the young and brash mentality that he once had and how things have changed. Just excellent writing. Then the next record is My Story, Your Story, and this is a joint where Nas and AZ trade bars, and I think that this is a wordsmith worth of a record. I love this slow-paced sample beat with their voices jumping back and forth, almost doing like a Styles and Kiss type thing with the multis on overload. And AZ raps more of that style, but Nas was able to meet him and do the same thing, and it was a good reunion of the firm now, and over this old school type Premier beat just made it go hard. And I love that he has a record dedicated to the ladies of hip hop titled Bouquet, and giving all of his flowers to all of the ladies in hip hop in a major way. I mean, we talking about shouting them out the female MCs name for name in the verses, rapping and bigging them up. And then there's like a whole minute segment after where he's just shouting out everybody. And I think that that's just a powerful move, especially for someone of Nas's stature, who was not only an elder statesman, but a hip hop icon, legend, royalty. That is like the highest compliment that you can give. He even shout out Doja Cat, who they've had some exchange of words, so that means a lot coming from Nas. Let me get to a song called Junkie, where he talks about not being able to remove that itch of hip hop, regardless of all of the things and successes that he's done on other platforms, that this is always calling him back, and he will forever scratch the itch when he needs it, which is what any true artist does, regardless of like where you are in life. I feel like you never lose the itch if you've ever done any type of professional work in said art form. And the last record called Third Childhood, I love the message that he sends with it, right? He starts out the verse saying, should I put away the Tim boots, the do-rags, and the pants sagging? But then flips it saying, well, Ozzy Osbourne still has his nails painted. So it's kind of like this idea of, why do people think that when you get older, you have to lose yourself or stop what you once did because you were younger? But you have other people and genres and, you know, parts of the world that don't even do that, because rock bands specifically, they still do a lot of the same shit that they do back in the day. Bret Michaels is 62, still wearing that big ass headband and eyeliner with the bootcut jeans and small shirts, and nobody has an issue. So I definitely dig the concept is like, you could be you regardless of what age you are, as long as you're being authentic to who you are and where you are in your life, because we can always tell what's fake and what's real. What a way to cap off the album, and this project is fire, easily one of my favorites of the year, and I had to get a review out right before I do my ranking, because this is going to be in my top 10 list. You know what I mean? So let me know in the comments, have you listened to the album, and what is your favorite song on the album? Mine again is New York State of Mind Part 3, just a really ill beat, but the whole project rides and is perfect for cold hoodie season. So if you like this kind of content, make sure to like, subscribe, and if you already are subscribed, thank you, and until next time, peace.
RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy. Instead of banking on it, now rapping is just a hobby.